Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to be taking a look at this deck. This deck is already in pre-order status. I will have all the information below. This was on my list to purchase sight unseen simply because of my love of these two decks. But the creator graciously sent me a test copy to take a look at, but this was one of my no-brainer type decks. So if you while I always try to keep my reviews to what I feel about them and my reactions, I will forewarn when I can forewarn that I adore the art of I always say Mr. Adam because I always forget his name. I think it's Oehlers. Oehlers is the artist, and I love his artwork. I adore his artwork. And I love the decks that Stephanie Burrows has created with him, in conjunction with him. I use them constantly, so I'm a fan. And again, this deck would be a no-brainer for me simply because of those two things. So just putting it on the table here. So the deck that we're taking a look at today is the Thistledown Oracle. And what's interesting is that I was drying some flowers. I had gotten this does not matter, we're just rambling, I guess. We're starting out strong. I had picked up a microwave flower press to try because I need some pressed flower. I want some pressed flowers. And so I had gotten a bouquet of flower, like random bouquet. So I could just kind of snip off different flowers, and it actually had, not on purpose, I didn't even think about it, I just grabbed the flowers, but tucked in there were some thistles. Look at that those spiky little leaves there around the base of it. So I love that. That made me so happy. And again, this is called Thistledown Oracle. The inside, kind of like a dandelion, will turn into those white things, seeds that you get in the dandelion. The thistledown, inside the thistledown, is this white, soft stuff that is called the actual thistledown, and it's called pappus. I just scrolled on my Wikipedia here. Feathery pappus of a ripe thistle flower is known as the thistledown. So that's what's inside of it. I believe, there's a lot of different kinds of, I almost feel like this might be milk thistle, but I don't take that as anything to do with the truth of the matter. But thistles are wonderful resources. They are used for pollen for butterflies. They are used for birds, eat them as well. So they do provide a lot of pollen, like my beloved dandelion. There are strains of it that are seen as being nothing but weeds, but we all know how I feel about that. So, so again, Thistledown Oracle. This is an extra card that, from my understanding, will only be available in the first printing of the deck. But again, we'll zoom in a little closer here, but and look at all the cards. But I just love, I adore Mr. Adams. I don't know him, so it's so rude. So I had to just call him. I know, yeah. I just adore Adams' work, like I know him, but I adore Mr. Adams' work. So the first deck that the two of them put out together was the Oak, Ash, and Thorn Tarot. This deck is well used. If you want to see how the cardstock holds up to a lot of riffle shuffling, this is a great example because this has been riffle shuffled to death. This is, of course, a tarot deck, so there are are 78 cards. I love the way this cardstock shuffles, and it has worn in beautifully. I mean, it looks like it's used, especially compared to look, you can tell, see, look at that. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but you can see this has worn into that used patina, because this deck has been used up the wazoo. This one, the dragon one, will get here. We'll get there. I just have used this a ton. Nearly all of my year ahead and Wheel of the Year readings are done with one, mostly this one. This one's newer, so I haven't used it as much, but almost all of those are done with this deck, and I love it. So this is the Oak, Ash, and Thorn, and then the second deck that they did was the Smoke, Ash, and Embers. Both of these decks of which I purchased. This is, again, I had really thought that I would have mixed feelings about because I really have strong feelings about dragons, and dragon energy is, I have very strong personal feelings about them, and I thought this might be a little too sweet. Again, nothing wrong with that, but for me and my feel of dragons, I really did feel like this might be like, I'm gonna get it anyways, but I wouldn't use it much. I actually really love this deck. And it while it does have some absolutely sweet imagery in it, it's quite powerful. The major arcana stands out really powerful to the minors, not in a discordant way, but in a way that works really beautifully. The swords are stunning. I don't know. I just have loved working with this deck, and it has not, for me, given off too sweet to be dragon energy. So I am a huge fan of both of these decks. They are mostly always right there and sitting on my desktop to grab. So yeah, I just adore these decks. So when I heard that this, and I guess I haven't been on Instagram a lot. I'm going to slide these in their boxes. Although it's kind of silly because I'll probably at the end put them together, but well, for right now, so I don't get things all over. I haven't been viewing Instagram too much, so I must have just missed out on things, because I do follow just Adam's work in general, and certainly the Three Trees Tarot, and so I missed it until I think it was really close to coming out, that they were going to come out with this and into a pre-order. So I missed it until like right before it came out. Was coming out. So I think it started on the 5th. Pre-order started on the 5th. Again, I will put all the information to that pre-order, and if you're watching this at a later future date, that link should still get you to the website for any information post the pre-order. So this is, again, Thistledown Oracle. Oh, I should keep this out for size. It appears to be the same cardstock. I'm going to say that it's the exact same cardstock. Again, I have used this deck so much. I riffle shuffle over and over and over again with this deck, and it's really held up beautifully. It is a matte cardstock. It has a really great feel. It's actually thicker of a deck than I would typically like. I believe I have here, and again, you can go into all of the stats, but I believe that it is 400 GSM, and that's, yes, 400 GSM. I am generally not a fan of thicker cardstock because I am a riffle shuffler. But I'm sorry, I'm doing this where you can't even see it. I have no issues riffle shuffling this deck, and I've done it so much. So I'm actually a fan of this cardstock. So it is a carbon balanced paper, and it uses veggie inks on it. So I'm super happy with it. This feels like it is the exact same thing. I didn't look up the cardstock on this just to make sure that that's the exact same thing, but it feels very similar. So that I'm happy with because I've used the other one so much that I know it's good cardstock. This is a 50 card deck with an extra art card on for this first print run. After the print run, that extra card won't be part of it. But so the base deck itself is a 50 card deck. And the premise here, let me read there is, as they've done with their other decks, there are cards that have sort of base meanings printed on it, 2 cards that have base meaning. What I like is that if you look at the PDF printout of there is a PDF guidebook. There is this kind of one line at the top that I actually really like. When I looked through that, I quite liked this sort of directive, or just sort of that key understanding, like for acknowledgement: once the storm settles, the sun will shine. Awareness: wonderful things live just beyond the leaves. Balance: accepting help is nothing to fear, so on and so forth. I actually think that is more than enough with the image and the name and that sort of key phrase to tap you into what the card or what the deck is about, and this, it can just stay in your box. This will come in a tuck box. This is a test deck, so it does not have the, I can't show you that, but again, I have used, now this one is, I haven't used as much as this, and I did tape, but I have 2, I cannot tell you which edition this is. I have another version of this, but it is up at the cabin, so I can't tell you that. I did reinforce the bottom of this for myself, just because I was dropping this in my bag and taking it to the cabin before I put another copy and left another copy up there. But I've not had like any issue with this. So yeah, it will be a tuck box, but they are beautiful tuck boxes. Okay, so cards, 50 cards, bonus card. There are blank cards. When they ship theirs, they have blank cards front and back just to make it nice and snug for shipping, and so basically protecting the first and last card. I used it to test. This deck didn't come with the edges rounded because, again, it's just a sample deck. I used this to test my corner rounder to see if it was close to what are on these, and so this corner rounding is done by me. It may not be the exact millimeter, but it's pretty close to the corner rounds of the deck already, so it's pretty close enough for me. So that was done by myself. Any errors on the corner rounding is only myself. So yeah, that's what we have there. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's flip this over. We'll do the extra card, which is obviously a thistle. I actually quite like this. How would I use the thistle card? I think, and there's also 2 other blank cards which we'll talk about at the end, but I think I would use this. I don't think there is a straight up like resource card. Let me go to the R's. Resourcefulness, which is not the same. Yeah, I think I would use this as sort of a resource card because it does provide sustenance. It's very protective in the sense that it protects itself from certain predators, right, or from eating it with all of the interesting pokey. Again, it's not like hard pokey, but if you're a little creature, but it provides sustenance to butterflies that can land on it and to birds. So I think I would probably use it as a resource card to draw from. Oh, I'm sitting there showing this, and I had it off the camera. That's kind of where I'm thinking. Again, I might change my mind as I go along, but I think that's where I would start with it. Again, the artwork, you know, let's apologize ahead of time. I adore Adam's artwork, so every card is probably going to be, it's absolutely beautiful because his artwork is absolutely beautiful. I don't know what else to tell you. There are both, so this isn't a, it is a nature deck, but it is a nature deck in the best possible of kinds, which incorporates dragons and magic, as well as what we on this plane of existence see as normal animals. So that's how I'm going to put it. So it does feel like it's a combination of the energies of both the decks. Oak, Ash, and Thorn is pure, like, natural to the middle world animals and creatures, whereas this is all dragons. Obviously there's other creatures, I'm sure, filtered in here, but the main, it's a dragon deck. And so the Thistledown Oracle has both, so it would beautifully work with this, and of course on its own. But it feels like a marrying of those two worlds, and so we're kind of in that liminal space where the two worlds overlap each other, which I absolutely love. So there's that. Here we have the backs. I do love the backs of, let me show kept again. I don't know why I put these away. I thought I would just get them out of the way, but I think that's foolish. So the original deck back is this, which is, again, look at that, so gorgeous. And then you can see the animals in the circle in the center. And then the dragon one has this dragon here with the plants and the leaves and the thorns as well, which I do love that both of these have like kind of thorns and spikiness to them, both the, you know, the beautiful harvest and the beauty, but also the sharpness of the thorns and that protective energy as well. And then we have this back, which of course has the thistledown, and it's all around a sleeping fox, which is absolutely gorgeous. And of course this naturally has the pokey leaves, not thorns, but pokey leaves. So I love the backs that they do. They are not reversibles per se. I'm not sure why that's this one is. To me, that doesn't really mean anything. Even if I use reversals, I'm shuffling, you know, I'm splitting in such a way, it really doesn't matter. There's no way it can affect how I'm going to pick the cards. So that never matters to me, but it does to some people. This one is reversible. This one is not. I mean, it looks good either way, but it's not reversible, and neither is this. So if that's something that matters to you, point that out. But it's stunning because his work is stunning. What can we say other than that? All right, let's see, can we get a little closer? That's probably going to make me get it out of the screen, but we'll try it there because it's zoomed in to see the artwork. So here we have acknowledgement. Again, the phrase here is, once the storm settles, the sun will shine. So I love this card actually because we think about acknowledging both the rain and the light, right? We can acknowledge the difficulty that we are in, but also acknowledge that the sun will come out again, and vice versa. We can acknowledge the sun that's going to guide us and sustain us, but also acknowledge the fact that there's going to be difficult times on the journey. So I actually really like this because it's a very neutral term. We're just acknowledging something. What that may or may not be is going to depend on the other cards and on the situation at hand. So I quite love that energy. Here we have an awareness card. Again, feels very neutral because it's really, now the key phrase is wonderful things lie just beyond the leaves, but this little hedgehog, which, come on, so cute. The colors, I think just naturally all of his color tones tends to feel very, now this has some really beautiful yellow tones and warmth as well, but it just, his color tones feel autumnal to me. Just, I don't know. I don't know. I just love it. I love his artwork. Of course, this card is very autumnal. But again, awareness to me is neutral. You're supposed to be paying attention, being aware of what's going on around you, both because there could be predators on the other side of this this grass, or because there could be wonderful, great, wonderful things on the other side as well. But it's about being aware of your surroundings, and that to me is very neutral. So I do love that. And then I just love the little hedgehog. Now the guidebook does not list like the animals. Let me double check that. But the PDF guidebook doesn't. Well, this one does have, and I will read this one since I have it. It's just a small little page on the PDF that has a black and white image of the card, and it says awareness, wonderful things lie just beyond the leaves, and it says a wee hedgehog nestles amongst the brush on a wildly windy day. Peering out wide-eyed as leaves swirl around, the hedgehog tries to peep beyond to see what lies ahead. A pastel glow of golden beige gently lights the horizon. I do like decks that describe what we're seeing. Look through the whirlwind of life and see the brightness beyond. In moments of chaos and turbulence, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Still, this card reminds you to remain grounded, developing an understanding not only of yourself, but the world around you too. So, yeah. It does mention that it's a hedgehog. I will flip through these as we go just to see if it mostly mentions what animal we're seeing there. And again, I like the keyword chosen here, that it isn't, you know, it's more neutral tone to just being aware, because then that could show up in either way. So I quite love that. Next we have balance with a hare or a rabbit here. I think there is a difference between the two. But it does in the guide, the PDF guidebook, talk about a woodland hare. It talks about autumnal leaves. It talks about wild fungi that blanket the forest floor that we can see here. It talks about butterflies. So you are getting a touch in on what you're seeing and maybe what you should be paying attention to, that I actually do love. So here we have balance. Accepting help is nothing to fear. Definitely looks like startled or a little bit afraid, and so then having the energies of the butterfly around them, creating literally like balance, have these balancing stones, and creating that bringing in some balance to maybe a fearful situation. Again, Mr. Adams' use of light, I love to watch in his backgrounds. I don't know why that's reversed, but I do really like his skies in all of his. I need to straighten this out. I don't know how it got whopper jawed. I'm a huge, obviously all of it's one of my absolute favorite Eight of Wands. I love everything about his images, but I will say that I always do kind of peek in the background, because they are obviously not the star of the show, but they're always, for me, I just really love his background work. And again, simple, but the light that's shining through there is so gorgeous in person, and it's something I love about his artwork. So there we have balance. Next we have bravery. What I liked about this one, and I'm just looking to see, on a radio we see a brave boar. So yeah, it is telling us what we're seeing. So we have the brave boar here, who is facing something new, and is uncertain, and is in, again, rainy times, and needing to be brave even when things are difficult. So obviously we don't need to be brave when everything is sunshiny and wonderful. So I do like that we're getting that energy of uncertainty, and how to deal with that. So we have bravery. Look at the horse in the calm. absolutely gorgeous pony, I should say. I'm so sorry. The lovely pony that we have here and the calmness. This isn't a horse that's, you know, we often see beautiful images of horses that are running free, and that sense of freedom often comes with, the keyword of freedom often comes with horses. So I quite like the difference where we normally see that with just kind of calm and grazing pony here. Be calm. Here we have celebrate, or celebration. I think these are magpies. Yeah, magpies here. You know, celebrate your successes. I think it actually says rejoice in your successes. Take the time to stop and celebrate. Again, I love all the little foresty bits and bobs that we see. We call those helicopters, and love to, we used to, you know, collect them and throw them. They would spin down on their own, but then we would gather them up and throw them up into the air again. So I just love all of the little bits and bobs that they have gathered in the natural world to celebrate here. So that's obviously a very joyous card. I love a community card. So I often do ancestor readings, and any deck that I use for ancestor readings, I look for, if it's not an actual ancestor card, I look for like a community card, and that becomes my ancestor card. Dragons in particular for me are tied to ancestral work, so this is perfection for me. Again, I know it's a community card, but I was really excited to see this because what I do is then I'll shuffle, find that, and then pull the card on either side, and then pull tarot cards, which now I have both of these to pull from and go with it. So I will definitely be trying that at the end. There, but that is a beautiful, we have everything pulled together, the dragons and the natural environments. Again, it's a perfect blending of the two tarot decks, which is quite beautiful. But community cards in general, again, it's neutral, although visually, obviously, this is about community is more than just a group of people. Community is something that's pulled together and tight knit. But being aware of who are the people that you have around you, what is your support system around you, is quite beautiful. Contentment with the beautiful owl. I love the silence of this. I like wintry scenes. What I like is that we would often look at the winter and say that's like harsh circumstances, but you have actually a being comfortable where they are at, right, in all the different seasons. Not just contentment when it's sunny and beautiful and perfect weather, although to this owl, the winter may feel like perfect weather, but just being present and content where you're at is actually really powerful in terms of a reading, because we are often reaching in readings, right, for what it is that we really want, for getting ourselves to where we want to go. And so to have a card that tells us to be content where we're at is actually quite a strong message about being present and content and happy wherever you're at and whatever the circumstances are. That's actually not easy energy. And doesn't mean that everything is going wonderful. It just means it's your reaction to your environment, not what's actually happening. Here we have the card for control. Again, this is an interesting one. Obviously, the actual meaning of the card, he's kind of pulled a star. It's a gorgeous image. He's pulled a star out of the sky. And so there is that sort of seizing your own destiny, seizing your own fate. But control as a word could go either way, right? It can be trying to control something that you can't control, or utilizing the control the controllables, as my friend Patrick always says. And so it can be either way. So I like the word chosen. I'm glad that it doesn't say you know, change your destiny or something like that, because control is a word, can go either direction, and I actually really like that that word stays neutral. So I'm quite excited about some of these neutral words. Even curiosity. Now, I was really sad. I love jumping spiders. I am obsessed with them on TikTok. I was really sad that at the beginning of the guidebook, she talks about the elephant in the room, and has to go on and sort of justify the jumping spider. I mean, if you can not look at this, even if my daughter is what I would call truly an arachnophobic. She is terrified of spiders to a degree in which, as her DM in Dungeons and Dragons, I don't use spider creatures and things like that, because it truly is something that makes her uncomfortable and is not fun. So I understand being afraid of spiders, but having to explain why they wanted to have a spider in their deck, I thought was really sad to the spiders of the world, because spiders are amazing energy. It's one of my, not my top tier 3, although she's becoming that because she's been around for a long time now, but spider energy is one of my most connected to animal energies. So I thought that was really sad. But I understand that people are afraid of spiders, but if we don't have any animals in here that somebody might be afraid of, like snakes, then it would be a sad thing. So I'm super glad that this little adorable jumping spider is here. Obviously, those of you who are afraid of spiders aren't glad at how long this has been on the screen. The keyword is curiosity. Again, this can go either way. Curiosity killed the cat is a saying, but also being curious about your things can again lead you to new places and keep you moving and going. So I do like the word choices being used as well. So here we have curiosity. Okay, so now I think, is this our first dragon? No, we had a dragon. The first one was acknowledgement, and we had a dragon in community. So here we have darkness, which is gorgeous. Again, with the neutral terms, darkness is not bad nor good. I actually find a lot of calm in darkness, and I have a lot of good connotations and a lot of poetry that I've written about darkness. So again, I love this. Now, it looks uncertain, right? You might have to be careful, like the moon card. You need to be a little careful when you can't see exactly what's ahead of you. So there is that warningness of being, you know, face your fears, move forward carefully, but it doesn't. This doesn't lock this card into darkness being one way or another, good or bad or in between, and I really love that. But imagery wise, it's just gorgeous because you're facing that sort of a little bit creepy forest, because in the darkness it can get a little, take on an ominous tone to it. So you definitely can get there with that card as well. But after the darkness comes the dawn. I know that's alphabetical, but still. Actually, no, yeah, that is alphabetical. Don't, just ignore me. Ignore my brain. So then we have the dawn with the dragonflies. I also, just in terms of animals, love dragonflies. But we have, again, the light coming up and the humming of life coming back into being, although there's a lot of life going on in the darkness. But I'm sure you've been around in the mornings when the birds start chirping and everything starts to bustle about, and everything looks different, right, when the sun comes up. So we have the dawn. And I do like with dawn versus daytime, which I'll talk about day in the at the end. But with dawn, what I like is that there's so much potential, right? And you really see that in both the darkness and the dawn, right? There's potential fears, but there's also potential, all kinds of life that's buzzing, and certain calmness and clarity in the darkness, right? So there's a lot of possibilities, but sometimes a little scarier possibilities for us in the darkness without a flashlight. But dawn also has all of this potential of the coming day. So you really are like at that cusp of where's this all going to go, that I think is quite beautiful. Here we have decision. Again, I'm really pleased with the word choices. This is not saying your decision is good or bad, just that you have a choice to make. So this is very much a pass card, which again, you could shuffle for, find shuffle for making a decision and see the cards that are on either side of that. I love that we have what feels very much like a pass card, and it's not saying good decision or choose the right path. Well, I guess you could say that, but it is about that moment in which you have a decision to make, and whether you're going to make the right one or the wrong one is not determined as yet. You're still in that space, so it's very neutral space, which I love. This one, I am such a huge fan of this card. Look at this little magical creature. Instead of a jackalope, I wonder if they called it anything. Let me see if I can get to there quickly. It like flips its pages, so obviously it's gonna take a second to get there. Dreams are where anything is possible. A dragon rests in an autumnal woodland clearing, roused from its slumber. They gaze up at an unusual apparition. A mischievous gray squirrel has sprouted magnificent charcoal green wings and appears to be hovering above them. Sparkling magical fairy dust sprinkles the surrounding air, falling in a delicate trail to the ground. So I love this because it brings in some fae energy as well. Again, I will take that and dare to dream. Also, it's a great liminal space where you're literally between, again, reality and the plane of existence, the liminal space that we have just left of center. So it's just beautiful. But again, dreams as a keyword. Now again, this image is really beautiful, but dreams can get in our way sometimes and become illusions. Dreams can be an interesting space. So again, as a significator card, if you had a dream that you were trying to figure out what was going on with it, you could shuffle for that, find the dreams, and look on either side. So I like that some of these neutral terms that don't really have any foregone conclusions can really open up and work as significator cards. Same thing with this one. This is explore. Exploration in general is wonderful energy. But it's also a caution to pay attention and keep your eyes open, see what you can find, to actively engage in searching is what exploring is. And there's danger to be had in exploration, but then the payoffs can be really great as well. And so again, it feels relatively neutral, and there is that tinge of shadow in the sense that you take risks when you go exploring, and whether or not the payoff is there isn't known when you head out. So I feel that the deck has some more neutrality in the words. I'm just making little piles, and these aren't that they're pure neutral cards, but they feel like there's space in them to really go in either direction versus like celebration, calm, balance. Those are pretty solid energies there. And dawn and contentment, bravery. See, even bravery, the contentment, that indicates that there could be difficulty, so be content. Bravery means you're facing something difficult, so be content. This would go more over here, and visually you can actually kind of see that brightness factor versus the ones that have the inherent underlying maybe difficulty. You can see that visually. I don't know if that will hold out. And then we have more brown tones. Again, this could probably more go into that position, and where I consider these to be, even that, if you think about acknowledgement of the difficulty and the light, that color tone is there, and more brown tones in what I think of being more purely neutral, although I would put both of these in the neutral category. So kind of interesting there. We'll see again ferocity. That goes in this section here. The key word here is speak truth to power, but this is in the midst of, it has a feel of like a tower moment, and pulling forward that ferocious energy there is so strong, especially for a little wee wolf cub here. So there is that strength in the midst of difficulty, but ferocity is different than bravery, right? Ferocity is sort of that so much fierceness inside that it has to come out. There is that energy of having to release that energy and speak your truth, even in the or most importantly in the midst of a difficult energy. And again, that color tone is there. I'm just curious if that will hold through, but that's really beautiful. I love this friendship card here with the bird and the bat. That makes me so happy. Don't always look to your own kind or to those that are just like you. That often friendships that are amazing bring in that unexpected connection that you may not have thought was going to be somebody that was going to be your friend, can be the most powerful. So that's just sweet. That image is just adorable. Here we have grief. Again, absolutely stunning. I love the carrying of the, life and the rocks and the flowers. You actually, because with grief, you are carrying both the weight, but you're also carrying all of those spots of happiness and spots of memory. So I actually really like this image. It is maybe sweeter than this. To me, probably depicts grief a little bit more for me, but at the same time, long-term grief, this long walk, this slow walk through life that the tortoise here represents, these are moments in grief that pops forward in a ferocious, painful, howl. But the long-term journey with grief is both carrying the difficulties and carrying the bright spots. Can be even more painful is carrying the light. And so I actually really love this as and then it has the butterfly, so to share that as well. So I actually really love this. And again, I love that there is a grief card here. Here we have a guardedness card. Again, boundaries. I love, you've got a little dragon that's like in those I think surround buckeyes. And so using, setting boundaries, using your resources around you. But guardedness, I like, again, the term, because that it doesn't just say protection, which is more of a positive word, but it's guardedness. It's being sort of guarded, and this can be very helpful and keep you safe, but you can take guardedness to a level that keeps you from experiencing life. So this really can go both ways, and that's what I'm really seeing, is that a lot of these cards are very open to going in both directions, and I, in an oracle deck, really appreciate that. I love the guidance here. We've got what looks to be crystals here. An elderly rat sits on a lichen-covered log under a moonlit sky. The moon's rays shine down, illuminating the elder on their wooden stage. Their tail protectively lays across an exquisite amethyst crystal, and a gem known to symbolize wisdom and guidance. So I love that they have a specific crystal there as well. I also love amethyst for kind of entering into liminal space for the guidance, so that works really well for me as well. So again, love this. Love a good guidance card. It's important. Look at the Haven card. So again, the need for a haven means that we have been on a long journey and a difficult one. And so being able to see a haven ahead is that sense of relief that comes. But a haven isn't needed. If we're living in the haven, we're not looking for the haven. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm being clear about why this has been exciting me, is that the haven understands the need for that we need a safe place, that feeling vulnerable and being out in a space that may not be entirely safe is what means that we need to have that haven. So while haven is a good energy, a positive energy of finding safety, it understands, it's like shadow cards in tarot. When we go to the sixes, which are harmonizing, it's because we understand that it's following the fives, which are shakeups and uncomfortable. And now we've got some sirens going off. But it understands that that uncomfortable energy is there, and that's why we need the harmonizing of the sixes. So a card like this and other ones that we've seen speak to, okay, there's a need to be guarded, right? What are we guarding ourselves from? And have we gone so far that we're just staying underneath our protections and not coming out and enjoying life either? So there's both those things present there. And so in this is present both the dark and the vulnerability and the haven. So I really love that in terms of reading cards, right? Here we have individuality. I love this. We all love the beauty of monarch butterflies, but to have this one say it's okay to stand out, it's okay to be different, I think is really encouraging, and love it. Here we have intrigue. So this is interesting, I would say, in terms of comparing this to curiosity, right? This is about, the keywords here are opening your mind to unexpected opportunities. So obviously this person is playing around and swimming around, and his attention is caught. This is a little different than the exploration, in which you are actually going out and finding and looking for and exploring, or curiosity even is a state of mind, which I do think this otters have that curious nature. But what's interesting is this is something that's just caught your attention. Now again, you have to be careful with or awareness. I think that's what I was thinking about. Intrigue means something's caught your attention. Now what you're going to do with this is the next step. Are you going to dive down into that? Do you need to be careful if you're gonna get caught by something shiny? Sometimes that's a trap. So the intrigue, I like, again, the term, because your attention has now been caught. Now, are you going to dive deeper and figure out what that is? So this card does seem to be more about that diving deep with the water, but also there's a caution to be had here of being careful that just because something is shiny doesn't mean we should necessarily just dive down, and we should probably be a little careful. So I like, again, the neutrality of that card. Love this kindness card. That is pure, beautiful light. I love I think that's lavender that we have here. I love the that it's a dragon and a rabbit here. But the dragon is actually the one that is injured here, and now we have this rabbit that is showing kindness to a dragon, which, you know, in the world in which dragons exist, would, you know, that's predator and prey, as I would assume. So I just think it's beautiful, and it really has a strength and kindness feel to it. I love it. knowledge. So I think we had a wolf cub. We have a spider, which I do work a lot with. We have a crow raven energy. I don't think I've seen a bear yet. Just curious if all my animals are here. Again, knowledge is beautiful. Knowledge is powerful. Knowledge can also be used as a weapon. So it's kind of that neutral energy. I love this image. Is stunning with the books in the forest. That's a absolutely gorgeous card. I love it. Here we have light. I love fireflies. I love firefly cards. See the light even in the darkest hour. So this is when you start to see them pop up. So there's quite a few cards that speak to dealing with challenges, right? Even though, again, whether it's coming at it from the ferocious, from the be brave in here, from the acknowledge both the light and the dark, from there, I'm sure I think there's another one that I'm trying to think about, but there does seem to be a number of cards acknowledging the difficult, even the Haven card, acknowledging that, and the protection, or not protection, the guardedness. So there is an acknowledgement that in the forest, right, and in life, there is light and shadow, there is difficult times, and then there is the sun coming up, and there is in a beautiful, what I think some people would think of as a sweet style of art. I do think there's a lot of acknowledgement of the difficulties and the thorns, and I love to see that. So here we have light. Here we have listen. Again, this is neutral to me. We don't know what we're going to hear. Pay attention, listen. We might learn something. You also might realize that there is something stalking you, or a hawk's about to come down and get you, right? So this is, to me, very neutral. Just listen. Are you listening because, again, a bird of prey is about to snatch you up? Or are you about to hear the beautiful songs of your flock that you might have gotten separated from, right? So it's just kind of a neutral to pay attention and listen to your surroundings. That's just beautiful. This is stunning. This really almost hurts my soul. It's so beautiful. Feathers are definitely messages from my son and from others who have passed in my family. Birds in general, and certainly feathers. And so I do a walk in the woods reading where it always starts with birds around and kind of looking up and seeing a feather from that bird kind of wafting down to get sort of the start of the message. And I love so I just love, there's so many things about this card, because there is that sometimes we have to choose to look up when we could get really centered on what is right in front of us, that we often have to make that choice to look up and see, maybe we would miss what actually might be there. So again, it feels really neutral, but also touching on difficulties that I think is actually really beautiful to see. Oops, making space, probably from clipping or doing the corners. This is really cute. Again, I really love this. There's always room for one more, like make space, but it also has that sense of get a bigger boat. Like if you get a bigger boat from Jaws, get a bigger bucket, is what I use all the time. That sense of that if you bump into something or someone that makes you stretch your way of thinking, just make space for it. We don't have to struggle when we bump into things that stretches our worldview. Just make some more space there. But this can also be a very clearing energy, like it's time to make some space. It's time to push some things aside, make sure you have the people around you that you want around you. excuse me, this could go in a lot of different ways, which is what I really like. It's kind of active or action oriented. Make space. It's time to make some space there. This to me is neutral, probably more like neutral positive. Memory is powerful and very neutral. Memory is such an interesting thing. It can be very flawed. It can be very empowering. It can be very painful. There is so much tied into the energy of memory and reflection. That is just beautiful. And again, it's not good memories or positive memories. It's just memory. And that leaves so much space for interpretation. I love that. Look at this. I love this expedition here, or this trooping, instead of trooping fairies here, we have trooping snails. All have their things that they're carrying with them, and just moving forward. Just keep moving forward. That sometimes it's that one foot in front of the other. It's again not saying that they aren't coming from a really difficult circumstances. They may be completely not knowing where they're heading, and so they're just, it's about being present and moving forward, and one step or slime trail forward at a time. I really love that energy. Again, has a neutral positive feel to it. Here we have navigation. This I really like as well, because this to me, navigation is getting yourself back on course or staying on course and not getting lost. That's very different energy. That's when you actually have a course set in mind and needing to find a way to safely navigate and stay on course. So again, very neutral, because it could mean that you're completely lost and you need to find the way. But it's about staying focused on a specific place that you're trying to get to, and keep finding a way to navigate your way there. It's really beautiful. Here we have opportunity. I love that. I also like the word. Again, I'm a big fan of the words in this deck. It could be like abundance or something like that, but here's an opportunity. You know, if you weren't looking for it, you might have missed those berries for the thorns and the leaves up here. So watching for those opportunities that could, it kind of feels like clover, Lenormand clover energy, right? Be watching for these opportunities that might pop up. So I quite love that. Here we have patience. I mean, who doesn't love a patient? As a reader, do I love patience cards? No, because you know, nobody likes to be told to have patience, but we have to allow things to fully ripen. And patience is it's a hard energy. I would almost put it in the harder cards, because we are very rarely comfortable with having patience, but we need to. So I love having a patience card. I guess I'll put it in the neutral, even though I think it could go either way because it goes to the positive with the reward for the patience, but the actual activity is difficult. Pause. I love a pause card. Sometimes it's not about moving forward. Sometimes it's not about looking to the past. Sometimes it's not about diving deep. Sometimes it's not about all those. Sometimes we just need to hit a pause. Stop and sort of recenter. That's different than patience. Patience is waiting. This is just stopping for a moment. You're going to keep moving forward, but you just need to pause for a hot second. I love that. Love, love, love having a pause card. Here we have planning. Again, this is interesting. Like, planning is such a good card in the sense of get organized, get planning. But this clock around this bird, that does make me anxious, because it does have that sense of like seeing a turtle, like with things like wrapped around its neck, and you think, okay, this is literally being strangled by the clock. So it's like that, again, that neutral space between, it's important to have plans and to schedule, but don't be so bound by it that you are literally tied to the clock. That's exactly what I get out of this. And I love planning, and this is, you know, the key thing here is about getting your ducks in a row, and it's important to plan, but you could read this both ways, because yes, you want to be planning and organizing, but at what point does it actually become not conducive to be so tied down to every moment? So I can see the light and the shadow in this, and that, I mean, we've got a whole pile of cards that to me really hint at both sides, that it's a great thing to see in a deck. I love a protector kind of deck. This, now that's different than guardedness. This is protection. This is offering protection. This is standing strong for yourself and for others. Very Seven of Wandsy feel to it. And who does not want a glorious stag in a deck? Absolutely gorgeous. But what the protection means, there is a reason that you need to be protected. So again, it is that neutral space, that the act of protection is really powerful and positive, but it also acknowledges that we need protection. So there's that beautiful understanding of light and shadow that I think this whole deck seems to really be embodying. Here we have re-energize, so recharge your batteries. Like, I love this sort of, it's going to open up to the sunlight, recharge up your batteries here. We can expend ourselves, we often do. Again, re-energizing means we've depleted ourselves, and so we need to take the time to recharge that. So it holds space for both those things, because that re-energize says you're probably feeling exhausted, you're probably putting out more than you're taking in, so refill your bucket. So it's telling you that because you have drained your energy. So do you see, I know I'm saying it over and over again, but you don't get this all the time in Oracle decks, and I wasn't sure what to expect, and this has made me really excited to see. Love release. This is again an interesting card that acknowledges that sometimes there are things that we have to let go of, and that can be, you know, can feel negative, but sometimes it's just time to let it go. Sometimes it's off of loss, which this card could be the releasing part of grief, but also sometimes it's just the time to let something go, because it's no longer being useful or helping. So that is a really powerful card. Resourcefulness, I do love this, using your smarts, being resourceful, trying different ways of attaining things. That's kind of a state of mind and a state of being that is smart and clever, so it has a bit of a foxy feel to it. I know it's not, it's a dragon, but in terms of Lenormand, it has that, think outside of the box, try something different, that I really think is smart. I love that card. Rest, you know, sometimes just it's time to rest. I just think it's beautiful. There's a lot of cards that, you know, to me speak of grief and processing, that I think is really beautiful because it's not coming at it in just one way. Even the retreat. So it's interesting that there is a rest card, which is just, again, a longer pause. We have a pause, sort of regroup, but then we have a rest, which is different energy, right? This is just kind of rest, get a good night's sleep. And retreat is more hermity. Let's step back, take all the pieces of the information that we have and make some sense out of it before we move forward. So different energies to this is stepping away to rest and recuperate and recharge. So you could also put recharging in there. Or what was that called? That was re-energize, but that's different, right? That is opening up and taking in positive energies. That's going to fill your bucket. That's actively filling your bucket. This is just resting and restoring energy. This is retreating so that you have the opportunity to process and figure out all these bits and bobs. That's different energy. So I actually really am happy with the energy here, that leans much more neutral to neutral positive than it does just straight up you know, positive energy here. So I really love this. Safety is also an interesting one, right? We've had protection, that's protecting other people. and other things. We have guardedness, which is a very interesting word that I love to have in this deck, which is different energy. We have haven. Now, I will say that haven and safety, but haven is searching for a place that makes you feel secure. Finding that place, it's almost like the house card in Lenormand, where it's that space in which you can feel good and safe in your own skin, that private personal space. Haven is more, you're on a really hard journey and you're finding this respite. So that is interesting. Those are the two, I would say, we can relook at Haven. Those are the two that you could say, okay, those are kind of similar energies, but I would look at this more in the lines of home, that place in which you feel good and safe and protected in, which is home card, or Othala in terms of runic energies, whereas Haven is that you are out and vulnerable and in a position in which you need to find that haven. That kind of shows up and offers that moment of relief and hope. It is different energy, and I'm excited to see how those might come up differently in readings. Again, safety comes with the understanding that we need a safe space, so I quite love that. Love the Seeking Magic card. Actively seek magic. Like, we don't even need to say anything else about this. Actively seek magic. I love this so much. So much love this. I'm a huge fan of Serenity cards. My heart energy in my deck is called Serenity. Serenity is such a powerful, powerful word, in my opinion, because it's not... I'm just Googling. It's the state of being calm, peaceful, and untroubled there, but it's more than that. Sorry, I was looking for where I had written up in my guidebook about the heart energy point being I have named Serenity, because there is a Sanskrit meaning of this particular chakra that is unhurt, unstruck, and unbeaten. So there, and this posture of this swan with the wings back, like this to me is the results of the Sun card in tarot, that when we have such a mastery of self and an understanding of self, and have done all of this work that we've done across the major arcana, it puts us in a place of serenity in which happiness comes in a place that we cannot, from a place in which we cannot get it from anywhere else. It is having this this core of serenity that is such a strong space to be in, to be centered in your heart, to be centered in a space of serenity is a powerful position, which the Sun is a powerful card, and that's what this feels like, again, especially with the posture here. This is absolutely gorgeous and powerful. Love this. Here we have Shelter, finding shelter from the rain. It's a beautiful card. I'm glad we have a snake here. Just take cover. Sometimes you're going to look up and howl at the moon in the midst of a storm, but sometimes you need to be smart enough to get under cover and just let things pass. So I really do love that energy there. Here we have the silver lining. This is sort of after the storm, right? The sun comes back out. But I do think silver lining is an interesting term, because it means like there is, no matter how difficult things get, we're supposed to look for that silver linings, right? It's actively seeking positive. So it's not just positive energy just randomly, but it's actively seeking that out when things are at its most difficult. You're looking for the silver lining. So it's an action card. It's not saying, hey, everything's great. It's saying, look for what is good here. Find that silver lining. Look for that, because that's going to help to sort of recenter you and keep you moving forward. But it's a very active term in the way that we utilize it. It's not, in my opinion, just kind of loosey-goosey, everything's fine, everything's wonderful. It's saying look for that, actively seek out that to see where there is good, no matter the circumstance. So again, I find that to be really powerful and hold space for what both the difficulty is, and seeing the silver lining in the midst of the difficulty. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of these cards as being, is that mix between acknowledging the difficulty, and then being actively being active in some way regarding that. So quite beautiful. Here we have warmth, lead with your heart and speak with compassion. So, but this is, that warmth is coming, again, deliberate action. It's not just, you know, random warmth. It is creating warmth. It's putting warmth out there. So it does feel much more action oriented, because you are actively putting out warmth. You're actively engaging in compassion. It's not a passive energy there. Even if you have like a crackling fire, you would have had to have made that, deliberately made it. But obviously in a dragon animal deck, I think this is so perfect. And the warmth doesn't just protect you, but it's also going out there and helping others as well. When we actively engage in active compassion, it impacts us and it impacts others. This is really quite beautiful. It could have been called compassion, but I really love, again, it's action oriented and I love it. Warmth isn't an action word. It's not an active word, but the understanding of this card is to be deliberately and actively put out warmth and compassion. Just when you combine it with the imagery, so I think is really beautiful. And then there are two blank cards. Originally, from what I saw in the guidebook, these were meant to be a yes and a no card. Okay, I got a phone call and then started playing with piles. So I'm actually, what I wanted to pull, I know what I was talking about. Like, what was I talking about? And then I started making piles. I was talking about these. So these cards were originally going to be yes and no cards, which is great to have. I love that they ended up taking the creator stuff, and they ended up taking the keywords off of it, because not everybody uses yes and no questions, and then they become kind of just leave it in your box kind of cards. But I like that you've got the light, day and night, which is different than darkness and dawn. And it really creates a beautiful, for me, I'm the person who uses sort of the swoop of the day and connection with the directions. And so dawn would be associated with east, day would be associated with the south, where all of the day-to-day life challenges take place. West is when things are really starting to lock down and close down, and you have the narrowing of potential energy. And then north being the nighttime, the winter time, and the time for reflection. And so with these four cards, you know, they also do their own thing. We have the potentials and possibilities here. We have potentials and possibilities in a more shadowy aspect. We have just the general aspects that we want to apply today, and the general aspects that we want to apply tonight, or yes and no's, whichever one you wanted to use. I would almost use this, and I think that's one of the things I read was, you know, either one of these could be the yes and the no. No, there's still more work to do. Yes, now we have the clarity of the night to really see that. I think that if I was looking for a yes and no, I would probably use yes and no, even though I think most would do yes and no. But anyways, it keeps it open. But in these four, it then gives me my directions that are a big part of the way that I read and the way that I work with energy. So I actually really love having these four cards. And then I just have piles here. There's more, and I filtered some of the neutral, what I would consider neutral, into these. But there are, in my opinion, more cards that, while they might lean image wise or whatever to one thing or another, they hold space for both light and shadow, and there's a lot more. So these are for what I just put as neutral, but then there's more neutral that leans neutral, not negative, but neutral shadow. There's also more that lean more neutral positive, but when you put them all together, that's a lot of cards in the deck. That's more than half of the cards in the deck that lean to hold space for both, and that's really powerful in an oracle deck. I'm really pleased to see that. There are definitely less of the what I would say maybe are pure shadow cards, but again, because a lot of the what I would say are light cards or neutral cards are understanding that this is needed because of the shadow that's existing there. This, it really expands this out. So I'm actually really, then you have a nice chunk of what I would say is purely positive cards, but it's not an overwhelming of straight positive cards. So I am actually really pleased with the name choices. That keeps things open. Yeah, this feels like the same cardstock. I love shuffling this cardstock. I like the lot of the names. For me, again, you can read them differently than I would read them, but the way that a lot of the names are, again, just allow it to be read determining on the circumstance. You could use reversals and go light or shadow that way. Again, some of that's your question, some of that's positioning. This is a far more open, not that, that sounds terrible, like I had no expectations, I suppose, of what the deck would be, but I think maybe because again the artwork is so beautiful and so sweet, and we all love the woods, but woods encompass so much light and shadow, and so it shouldn't have been surprising, but I wondered if it might go too overly positive, and I don't see that at all. It's more strongly neutral and looking at both and understanding both the light and the shadow. And then there's a lot of asking for deliberate action that I think is really beautiful. So again, like you could literally go in and search out, like again, I do, let's do I do a listen and do ancestor reading for myself all of the time, but I also do it for clients, and I use decks, that an oracle deck that has a ancestor, or I use a community card. So I would shuffle, 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 find the community card right here and pull the card on either side. So this is an interesting one, right? Because again, this is for me, just listen. Like you don't need to do anything about this right now. Just sit with this. And so here we have awareness. So being aware and looking for kindness. We are not always aware. We're often much more hyper aware of negative things, slights, you know, rudeness, especially right now. I feel like the whole world is hyper touchy. And that's really condensing it down in a way which it shouldn't be. But there is this sort of really hyper awareness of offense. And again, I'm not saying that some of that awareness of offense isn't needed, but sometimes it is very extremely important and powerful to also be aware of the kindnesses. The simple grace, you know, grace and kindness to me go together, and to be aware of those kindnesses, be aware of those grace, look for the good as well as, you know, we can't just look for the bad and the negative that needs fixing. We also do have to have a constant awareness of the grace and the kindness that is around us. So that would be just something to sit with. And then you can pull, you know, one of your for me, a tarot deck, one of the tarot decks. I'm going to do the dragon because we have two of the cards with dragons in it. And I might actually do that. Like, I have both always on my desk. So I might literally say, okay, wow, these are really that. So I'm going to go in that direction. So then I always do 3 tarot cards that are focused on what should we actually be doing with the center card at the middle. So, and these can be separate messages entirely. They aren't always connected, and generally they're not. And so then it's like, okay, Page of Wands, learning to transform, actively engaged in playing with transformation, playing with change, playing with creative energy, using my resources wisely, both internally and externally, to learn to change the things that need to change, to be playing with and getting comfortable with manifestation, both in the physical and drawing from physical resources and internal. Again, this isn't a real reading, but in general, I just wanted you to see them going out. Size-wise, I don't think I actually compared. They seem to be the exact same width and slightly shorter. Let's see. I don't know if that lets you see better. So they're the same width as a tarot, but slightly shorter. Not sure why. Well, you know what? They're probably, we don't have the border that's normally there. So it's the same height as the internal aspect of the tarot cards, but then it just has no borders. So that is, that's the size there. I don't mind the size. I actually like small cards. I do like some big oracle cards, but I do like an oracle deck that doesn't have to be ginormous. And so that means, I'm fine with the size. It shuffles really beautifully. It's comfortable in the hand. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, obviously, the decks you get will come with a box, but as this one doesn't, I have this gorgeous bag that my friend Patrick had gotten for, I think it was for Oak, Ash, and Thorn, but I keep this in a box, and I don't like boxes I don't put box and in a bag at the same time. So this little lovely is going to go in here. It's a large bag for it, but it's okay. It will keep it safe. Look at that. How beautiful is that? I'm, again, super pleased. I didn't know 100% what to expect in terms of neutrality, and that has just pleased me to no end. Not that it's anybody's job to, again, make the kind of oracle deck that I like to use, but when it happens, right, when you stumble on one that really works well, it's foresty, which is something that I love. It's animals, which is something that I love and work with. It's plants and mushrooms and leaves and all the stuff that comes in the forest, which is something I love. There are dragons, which is something that I love. There's a touch of and a hint of that magic in that liminal space, which I love. So this to me is a beautiful space between those, the forest that we walk in the middle world, and when we slip into liminal space, where there be dragons and flying squirrels with raven wings or whatever kind of wings those are. So I do love this kind of, again, this was a no-brainer for me to purchase because I utilize these 2 decks all of the time, and so this was a no-brainer purchase. I did not purchase these. This is a test copy sent for review, but I would have purchased these because of my love of these 2 decks. So it was kind of a no-brainer art-wise, but I'm actually really, I'm really pleased with how this oracle deck turned out and excited to work with it. So there you have it. The Thistledown Oracle by Stephanie Burrows, and the artwork by the amazing Adam Ohlers, Oehlers. I always slaughter that, but I adore his artwork. So in my opinion, another solid deck by this amazing duo there. So I hope you've enjoyed this and that you have a wonderful rest of your day.